Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Lyrically, I'm untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600. Untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Punch the Face Radio. I'm your host, Brandon Stubbs. Appreciate you joining me here this evening. Tonight we'll talk about some poor matchmaking here by PBC. We'll talk about the return of Sergey Kovalev, and his opponent looks to be set here for March. And as well, talk to Mikey Garcia challenging for another title in another weight class. You can be a part of the show by calling in if you're listening live to area code 929-477-3165. You can also be a part of the show by tweeting me at BrandonP2TF. And, that's pretty much it. So you can get in contact with me that way to talk boxing here tonight. But we're going to begin tonight's show talking about the last big fight of the year, and that was between David Lemieux and BJ Saunders up in Canada, up in Quebec, Canada, here this past weekend on HBO. Much to my surprise, it was a one-sided beating. I won't call it a beating. Let me retract that. It was a one-sided win for Billy Joe Saunders. Give Saunders all the credit in the world. He just looked to be shade, steps, whatever acronym you want to use in this regard, better than David Lemieux. Lemieux looked very slow, lethargic, very sluggish. You can take that for whatever it's worth, whatever reason he may have. He tried to say that he hurt his left hand afterwards, whatever. We heard that from another fighter a couple of weeks ago who pretty much was a part of a one-sided shutout. But give all the credit in the world to Billy Joe Saunders, who went out and just fought a convincing win. I mean, convincing fight. It was nothing wrong at all with his performance. I personally thought he won all 12 rounds. Some judges gave 2 or 3 rounds of courtesy to Lemieux, but David Lemieux was never in the fight. Saunders' movement was just way too much for him. Lemieux could never really get any sort of contact with him or get close enough to do any semblance of damage to him. And it's kind of a shame. I mean, it's a shame for a couple of different reasons. One, from Lemieux's aspect, you were at home, you had the home field advantage, and you pretty much laid an egg. You looked completely uncompetitive. Didn't look like you were part of the bout at all. And it's sad. It's a sad state to be in as a fighter, to be in front of your hometown and you just give – I don't want to say he didn't give effort, because this question is hard a little bit, but he just didn't seem to really be all there. And it's a shame, because we thought it could be a competitive fight. I thought Lemieux definitely had a strong puncher's chance early in the fight when he's at his strongest, and he really did. It was just a completely one-sided affair, all for Billy Joe Saunders. Which then kind of leads me to, should we be shocked by what we've seen here on Saturday night? Part of me really wants to say we should be shocked, because it was such a one-sided win. But what this also shows us is the level of talent in the middleweight division. And it's looking more and more like that level of talent. It's not as deep as some would make it think out to be. Make it out to be. It just may really be just the cream at the top, with it being the champions in Triple G and Billy Joe Saunders. To Canelo's credit, Canelo hung tough for 12 rounds for Triple G, but, he lost that fight. I don't care if it was it was always go down as a draw, but it was, anyone who watched that fight, Triple G won that fight relatively convincingly. So that now leaves the question of what should be next for Billy Joe Saunders. He goes up to Canada, goes on the road, beats up David Lemieux in his hometown. Saunders had said during fight week during the conference call I was a part of that he would be more interested in fighting Canelo because more money would come with that compared to fighting Triple G. Well, then after the fight on Saturday night, it was a little bit different story. It's more on the lines of him saying, Golovkin making these stories that he was ducking him. He was willing to fight him. So we know Daniel Jacobs had called him out and was there and was wanting to fight. Demetrius Andre was also very vocal on Saturday night, posting a video that he wanted Billy Joe Saunders, and he was trying to get that fight. So, we put up the poll results here on Twitter. So, again, make sure you can follow me on Twitter at BrandonP2TF so you can vote weekly here on the Punch the Face Radio poll. So the poll question was relatively simple. Who do you think Billy Joe Saunders should fight next as far as the middleweight division goes? And here were your options. You had, obviously, the two big dogs. You had Canelo as one option. Triple G is another option. Daniel Jacobs is another option. And then maybe a dark horse pick, Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo, former 154-pound champion, moved up to middleweight. Very vicious puncher. We know for his uppercut knockout of J. Rock Williams. Very highlight reel guy. And has only had one fight in middleweight, but definitely looks to be the part in regards to the middleweight division. So those were your four options. The results are very interesting here, and I'm not even going to lie about it. I'm honestly shocked in regards to these poll results. And they went as following. With only 8% of the vote, again, 8% went to Canelo. So Canelo Alvarez only gets 8% of the vote in regards to Billy Joe Saunders to fight next. 8%. 16%, so equally shocking, goes to Triple G. So Gennady Golovkin, the fans don't want to see him fight Billy Joe Saunders next. Again, very interesting. Okay? That brings us down to who came in second place in voting with 18%, Jamal Charlo. So Charlo got 18% of the fan votes. And then overwhelmingly at 58%, 58% of the fans want to see Billy Joe Saunders versus Daniel Jacobs. Absolutely crazy to me to think that 58% of the voters want to see Daniel Jacobs versus Billy Joe Saunders. Instead of a unification bout with regards to the titles with Gennady Golovkin, regards to him maybe making a big money fight, in regards to him being making a lot of money, fighting Canelo, and Canelo getting an opportunity to possibly win a belt in the middleweight division. And Jamal Charlo, who, was a champion at 154, him getting a title fight. 58% of the fans want to see Daniel Jacobs get that opportunity to fight Billy Joe Saunders. Like I said, it's kind of crazy to me, that number. I never would have thought in my life that would have been the results, but that's the results. So 58% of the voters want to see Daniel Jacobs versus Billy Joe Saunders, the Saunders' next fight here in 2018. I honestly don't know which direction this is going to go in regards to the middleweight division as a whole. Right now, you have Gennady Golovkin and Triple G, Gennady Golovkin and Saul Canelo Alvarez still kind of in the midst of attempting to get this fight booked for their rematch. If they're going to rematch, it's not going to be until more than likely here May of next year, which is sad because a lot of us want to see the fight beforehand instead of them waiting until May. Whatever. We know Canelo's kind of the one who's kind of dictating when it happens. On that side, that's when he's going to be wanting to fight next. He wants to fight on Mexican Independence Day weekend. I highly doubt we see it before then, but stranger things have happened. You then have Gennady Golovkin, who's, from what I've understood, has pretty much said the deadline is the end of this year. If the fight isn't made, they're going to go on to the next thing. Well, the next thing will be Billy Joe Saunders, possible. Could even be Charlo for Gennady Golovkin, because Charlo is his mandatory for the WBC title that currently is one of the belts that Gennady Golovkin has. So, that is a possibility. And then you have Daniel Jacobs, who's kind of the outsider looking in. He fought Triple G closer and maybe in a tighter fight than what Canelo did. He does have the TV deal with HBO. He does have Eddie Hearn backing him, but he has no belt. And truth be told, he really doesn't have that much of a following as far as a fan base goes to really dictate and say he's an A-side fighter and really make demands. He's going to be one of these guys. He's going to kind of wait it out and see where the chips fall to where he may get an opportunity against someone. So he's going to be everybody's plan B option, unfortunately. As bad as that may sound, with no disrespect, he's going to be a plan B option. And also who's going to be on the line of a plan B option is Demetrius Andrade. Now, Demetrius is a very interesting case because quite often we hear him, boaster and brag about fights and wanting fights, and then he gets offered these fights and doesn't take said fights. So with Demetrius, I'm more on the lines of I'll believe him taking a fight when I see it, and until I see it, I don't believe it. That's really sad and rough to say, but given his track record of what he has done and his unwillingness to sometimes take fights, I got a hard time believing that if he's offered a Billy Joe Saunders fight, we see it happen. And, I mean, that's not to be disrespectful. I just don't see it happening. I don't see him making that run or that being a fight that we see him take. So, there's the options all there. And, I mean, obviously, there's chances other fighters may sneak in there. You never know who else may be interested in moving up from 154 to fight any of these guys. So the middleweight division is interesting, but it's very top-heavy at this juncture right now. So we shall see. But everybody is down with HBO. Billy Joe Saunders has shown a willingness to go out and fight in other people's homeland and be the road warrior. So you got to respect that. He's willing to take that chance. He wants to dare to be great and take those fights. So, more power to him if he's willing to do that and take on those fights and take on those comers and go on the road to not only defend his title but even challenge for a separate title himself if he's fighting Gennady Golovkin. So there is that. Also on that same card, the bubble busted for Cletus Seldon, a.k.a. the Hebrew Hammer. He finally came down to earth, if you will, losing a decision here to Yves. I know I'm going to mispronounce the gentleman's name. Yves. I forgot his name. Let me pull the young guy's name up. That way I can make sure I get it right. Yves Alisses Jr. He actually was able to win a unanimous decision. He knocked down Seldon 3 times throughout the fight. It was a 10-round fight, knocked him down 3 times. Seldon said it was never heard. It was Cletus Seldon's first loss of his career. It does boost the stock of Alisses Jr., who was kind of an unknown prospect, an unknown commodity there in Canada. Obviously, Seldon was the toughest name on his resume so far in his young career. But now he's now 15-1. He's got 9 KOs. He's fighting out of Montreal. He's going to be a guy that they can maybe slowly push there in Montreal, get him some more local fights, and maybe, kind of step him up in competition again. And I think it's something maybe this time next year we could see more of him there in the wide-open 140-pound division since Terrence Crawford has vacated those belts and left the division. You never know. He could be a fresh face the division needs as we go forward here in 2018. But Cletus Seldon, the Hebrew Hammer, is now no more. No more in regards to him being undefeated. I don't know if he'll be returning to HBO again. He is promoted by Star Boxing and LaGuardia. So we'll see. We don't know if he'll get another call back or how that all work. He really didn't look good in this fight on Saturday night. He definitely fought very caveman-like. He was unable to cut off the ring and just definitely seemed unpolished. He just seemed a Neanderthal there in the ring, which is something a lot of people have pointed out and just said, that style's not going to work against every fighter he faces. And it was very clear Saturday night that, that go-forward style just doesn't work against everyone you face. So his bubble got busted. So we won't probably see him on TV, at least in the immediate future. Shout out to Gary Spike Sullivan. He was actually training with Billy Joe Saunders. They both got prepared to fight on this card here Saturday up in Montreal. He ended up beating Antoine Douglas via a 7th-round knockout. Some saying it was an upset. Not so much. Douglas really just his defensive style was really off-kilter from the beginning of the fight. O'Sullivan just kind of went in and just kind of took over after a while. So shout out to him. He's a really good pickup here from Golden Boy. He's out of Ireland. He has the funny mustache, a great demeanor, good on the mic when he actually talks. So it was a really great opportunity for him, and not to mention he gets him in the mix in regards to the middleweight division again. So big ups to him for that. So we'll see what happens with Michael Sullivan. I don't know if he's now graduated from ESPN, where he had actually fought. He did a couple of cards there for the Golden Boy shows on ESPN. Maybe we'll start seeing him now on co-features on HBO. So it looks like he's graduated. He's one of these guys who got exposure through the platform that Golden Boy has with ESPN. Now he's on HBO. Big things should be ahead of him going into 2018. He's not young. I mean, he's at 33, so you're going to think in some juncture they may try to accelerate him a little bit more, see if they can get him in some bigger fights going forward in 2018. But he's an entertaining guy. He goes out, he fights hard. He knocks people out. So, hey, good for him. Good for him to be able to pick up that win here on Saturday. Other action I kind of want to lightly gloss over because, truth be told, it wasn't really that great. Jesse Vargas won unanimous decision over Aaron Herrera this past weekend. That was a PBC show on Fox Sports 1 they did. That was from California. It looked like it was hardly no one there in the arena. For Vargas is a weird guy, man. He's went from being signed to the money team and Floyd Mayweather to then going to Top Rank, fighting some fights there, getting an opportunity to fight Tim Bradley, get an opportunity to fight Manny Pacquiao, to where now he's working with Al Heyman. And we'll have some more news in regards to him here in a little bit later in the show, but it looks like Al Heyman has some things for him in store, which could be quite interesting and never know, could actually end up working to his advantage. We'll see. Also in that same card, John Molina Jr. looked really washed and was just suffering a lot of punches, got knocked down, looked to be out, and he ended up rallying and actually knocking out Ivan Rechik in the fourth round, and more than likely the best fight PBC's put on so far in 2017, which, it's crazy to think a 4-round fight and a very nondescript fight for, Molina Jr. and Rechik to fight, but it was a entertaining fight. If you didn't find it entertaining, you're crazy. A lot of violence, a lot of punches, knockdowns. How Molina survived is beyond me. Tough guy, did a great thing, and it was able to pick up the win here on Friday night. And also another winner was Jamal James, who ended up scoring a knockout of Diego Chavez, who's a really tough fighter. He was giving some guys a lot of stiff competition. He ended up James hit him with a body shot, ended up knocking him out in the third round. The fight was over. So some interesting prospects, interesting guys here for PBC. John Molina Jr. is never really in a boring fight. He's gonna. You never know what theatrics he can pull out, and when he's in a slugfest and he's sitting in the pocket, he'll trade, he can win. Jamal James looks to be a guy with a nice upside. He's a giant for fighting at 154. He's a 6'2", which is just crazy to think of somebody that large of a size fighting at 154 pounds. He's 22-1. He's 29 years old, another guy that they will more likely see more of on PBC cards going forward in 2018. And then, like I said, you've got Jesse Vargas, who we'll touch on here in a few moments as well. So all winners for PBC this past weekend. So, it's not much going on in boxing right now. There's really no cards of any sort of importance here this week, really before the year's out. I think there's a card over Japan, but not really a big deal on a lot of our radars here in America. So that leads us to looking towards the future here in 2018. We had some fights that have gotten made, but we've got some others that are still being talked about and look to be close to being made. One of those is the return of Sergey Kovalev. Now, we knew going into after his fight here, where he won his title back, won one of his belts back against Shabransky here last month, Thanksgiving weekend. We knew that he had the opportunity to be fighting again relatively soon on HBO again up in New York. So that was something that was already kind of penciled in. We knew he was going to get another fight. It's going to be March 3rd. He's going to be fighting there in the theater at Madison Square Garden. It's being finalized, but it's not a 100% done deal. But it looks like he's going to be fighting a gentleman by the name of Igor Malkanin. I'm sorry, I've never heard of Igor. I have no research on him as of yet. I'll kind of maybe go into more depth once the fight is made official. But, from what I'm reading about him here on ESPN, he's Russian who fights out of Germany. He's won 10 fights in a row, but all those fights have been over there in Europe against maybe lesser-known opponents. But now he's going to get an opportunity to fight Sergey Kovalev for Sergey Kovalev's belt. So that's going to go down here March 3rd in the Madison Square Garden Theater. On that same card, it's looking to be a done deal for Sullivan Barrera to challenge Dmitry Bulev for his belt that he carries here at the light heavyweight division as well. Now, Barrera had been offered the fight once before against Sergey Kovalev. He actually got offered the fight here for the fight card they had in November. He turned it down, didn't know it was going to be for a belt. He's been the mandatory here for Bulev's title. So it looks like that's finally going to happen. That will be the co-feature on that card here on HBO here in March. One would think, obviously all signs would point to if Bulev, Barrera winner, would face Sergey Kovalev, if he were to win his fight for a unification bout of some sorts here later in the year. That's the only reason I see these guys all fighting on the same card. Makes sense. And this is why main events is a big winner in all of this. The situation is fairly simple. Main events promotes Sergey Kovalev. He is their star guy right now on their roster. Main events also promotes Sullivan Barrera, who is a top contender, also in the same division as Sergey Kovalev. They also have, I don't know if it's American rights or how it all exactly works out with Dmitry Bulev to help promote him or co-promote him. So, that all encompasses all in itself right then and there. So you got three guys, one who's a champion, one who's a contender, another one who's a champion that you may have a piece of. So they really have three dogs in this race. Now, it was smart for them not to have Sullivan Barrera and Sergey Kovalev fight so soon and pretty much cannibalize your own stable. Don't do that. Maximize it. So you're going to get two fights out of this, and maybe even a third, in a third fight with Barrera to win, or even Bulev wins. Kovalev's successful himself here in March. That you're going to have another big fight that you can have two champions that you're either going to be promoting both of them, or at least own a piece of one to promote. So it's a big win for main events. Either way it goes, I don't know much about the guy Sergey Kovalev is fighting. Obviously, like I said, I'll do more research once the fight has been made official, and that's going to be his opponent. But, if we see the Sergey Kovalev that we saw here in November, I think he'll be fine. He's looking like he's back to his confident crusher self now that Andre Ward is far, far away from the division. But we'll see. You just never know with guys how they're going to react, how they're going to feel coming back from, two losses in a row that really weren't losses if you think about it. I mean, they were – I don't count those as losses. I mean, the knockout loss, you never really got hit with a low blow. But, I just hope he moves past it and everything's good. The first fight, I honestly thought Sergey Kovalev won, but whatever. The crusher's back. Let's see if he can maintain and keep that momentum going here in 2018. Speaking of momentum, let me go on a rant here about PBC and their poor matchmaking. Now, this summer we're going to close the show, unfortunately. Is me bashing PBC. This is what I do, folks. PBC is bad for the sport. Just call it what it is. I think they're horrible for the sport. I find them annoying, and they constantly do things that make little to no sense whatsoever. So what am I saying with regards to them doing bad matchmaking? Well, where should I start? Let's start here with some of the rumored bouts that are being talked about that aren't made official yet, but look to be more likely done deals here in the coming weeks and days, probably before the year is out. So let's first start off with the idea of Brandon Rios versus Danny Garcia. Now, I want you to keep something in mind. Danny Garcia has fought one time in 2017. One time. Now, this is a guy who is in his prime. He's young. He's not injured. Just fought one time. That's it. One fight. That's all you got out of Danny Garcia, 2017. That's it. And that was against, oddly enough, one-time Keith Thurman. That was a split decision loss, which it is what it is. But one fight. That's all we got. Now we got two fights out of him here in 2016. We should feel so honored. He also got 2 fights in 2015 and so on and so forth. But he suffered his first loss, lost his WBC welterweight title to Keith Thurman. So it's only one time. So what does he do for his encore here in his debut of 2018? He's going to fight Brandon Rios. Now, we've had Brandon Rios on the show. We love Brandon Rios. Very energetic guy, very straight shooter. What you see with Brandon Rios is what you get. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's going to keep it real, and we love that about him. But, we just saw him come off of a almost 2-year absence. He did get a knockout win over Aaron Herrera, who, oddly enough, also got 12 rounds with Jesse Vargas, but whatever. So, Brandon can fight. We know that. We saw him kind of get pulled back into a war against Herrera, but, we know he can scrap. We know he's a scrappy guy. We know we're not going to get cheated. But for Danny Garcia to be a former welterweight champion and for Danny Garcia to still be young, the guy's not old. I mean, Danny Garcia hasn't even hit 30 yet. He's 29 years old. And he's fought one time this year, and he's going to fight potentially probably only fight one time here in 2018, knowing his track record. If you're going to make that fight here for 2018, your debut be Brandon Rios, I mean, what does that fight do for Danny Garcia? What does it do? I mean, it doesn't boost his stock in the welterweight division. It does wonders for Brandon Rios if he's able to pick up that win, especially if he were to knock Danny Garcia down or knock him out. Does huge things for him, huge. But for Danny Garcia, this fight makes zero sense whatsoever. You're going against a guy who you know is going to come straight forward, who you know is not going to quit, who you know is going to throw shots, and a guy who genuinely and wholeheartedly doesn't care when he's in the ring. I mean, the guy kind of turns it up after he gets hit a couple of times. He's even said getting punched and all that kind of stuff's better than sex. Brandon Rios is not wound the tightest in the world. I mean that in the most respectful manner. You have to be a little crazy to be a boxer. We all know these things. But why this fight for Danny Garcia? What does this do for his stock? Now, at one time it was being mentioned Adrian Broner as opponent for him, which even would have made a little bit more sense, given their both name recognition. But again, it does nothing for you at 147. The fight would have made the most sense would have been him versus Sean Porter, but apparently that's not going to happen. That was the fight Sean Porter was looking forward to as well. So Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios is on the spectrum here for next year. But hey, guess what also could be on the spectrum on the same card that would make even lesser sense? Omar Figueroa versus Adrian Broner. Yes, Omar Figueroa versus Adrian Broner is a fight that looks to be pretty much a done deal as well. Now, again, the fight in itself doesn't do a lot for me. Now, we've had Omar on the show here a couple of weeks ago. He said he signed his paperwork to have a fight. He thought he was going to have a fight against Mikey Garcia, which I'll touch on here in a few moments. That isn't happening now. Adrian Broner, was being talked about as him being an opponent, as I said earlier, for Danny Garcia. That's not happening. It was even talk of him challenging for the belt against Sergey Lipinets at 140 pounds. Well, obviously that's not happening either. So what does he get in consolation? He gets Omar Figueroa. Now, the fight in itself, again, what does this do in the hierarchy of the 140-pound division? It does nothing. I don't get it. I'm confused by it. It makes little to no sense to me whatsoever. I just don't understand it. I want someone to explain it to me. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing the bigger picture of something here. But it just doesn't add up. Nothing here adds up at all, period. For these two guys to be fighting each other, I don't get it. I mean, besides them being PBC fighters, if anyone's listening to the show and can give me a legitimate reason or explain it to me. Maybe I'm slow. I don't know. Please tell me why this fight is happening. Please tell me if it makes any semblance of sense to you, because these are things I want to know, because I'm completely and utterly lost in regards to that fight being made. But hey, we got even stranger things. Jesse Vargas, we spoke of earlier. Guess what? Jesse Vargas can be the opponent for Keith Thurman in Keith Thurman's return to the ring here come March. Now, the thing is, here's the part that's really irritating. So let me kind of just lay the whole spectrum down. So it's already a done deal that there's going to be a card March 3rd at the theater at Madison Square Garden between Sergey Kovalev is going to be on that card. We know that. That date's been locked down by main event. Sergey Kovalev fights there that night. Who he's fighting doesn't matter quite yet, but he's on that card. He's going to be on that card. That's their date. They have that locked. Lacrosse Town in Brooklyn, PBC has said, you know what? We're going to stretch the boxing fans out a little bit. We're going to make sure that nobody's numbers are good that night. Because guess what? They're going to have a card on Showtime that right now looks to be in the works of Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. They're going to try this fight again. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because the Sergey Kovalev card obviously is over in Madison Square Garden, same night, same city, and also on the card for Deontay Wilder Ortiz could be Keith Thurman versus Jesse Vargas. I'm sorry, but Jesse Vargas didn't fight for 13 months. He fought a guy that got knocked out by Brandon Rios, who hadn't fought in almost 2 years. Explain the logic to me to where Jesse Vargas deserves a title fight. Because none of that makes any sense to me. Right now, Keith Thurman holds 2 titles. Jesse Vargas has done nothing in the last year, 2 years, to where I can say, yep, he deserves a title fight. Nothing. Now, he lost to Manny Pacquiao and lost the WBO title, last November of last year, in a very unspirited effort. Manny won the fight from start to finish. He does have a TKO win over Saddam Ali March of last year, but then he also has a unanimous decision loss against Tim Bradley, which he, strongly contests because he had Bradley knocked out or damn near knocked out in the 12th round, whatever. He never got that rematch that he wanted. So he's lost 2 out of his last 4 fights. So he's alternated wins and losses in the past 2 years. Granted, those losses are against Tim Bradley and Manny Pacquiao, 2 hell-of-a fighters at the welterweight division. But what makes him deserve a title fight against Keith Thurman, who holds 2 belts there in the division? None of that makes any sense. I hope the sanctioning bodies say, yeah, Jesse, we appreciate it, but nah, it doesn't make any sense. But let me now get on to Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz. Now, we all know the story, how Luis Ortiz in a felling is out of competition. There's a test here with the WBC. He had a banned substance in the system, said it was blood pressure medicine. He was never really forthcoming or didn't at least tell the WBC prior to all the testing that he had this medicine. It was in the system. He was suspended. Then his suspension was lifted. The same week it was lifted, that Monday he ended up fighting that Friday. And him and Deontay Wilder had a bizarre face-to-face pro wrestling style encounter here 2 weeks ago, live on television on Fox Sports 1. As Deontay Wilder was mysteriously in Florida there to watch the fight against the Luis Ortiz was having there on that card. So they're going to try this again. Quite honestly, this is the only option Deontay Wilder has that's really viable. Well, let's just call it what it is. He's chasing Anthony Joshua. He's going to have to go over to the UK to fight Anthony Joshua. As much as he doesn't want to do that, that's going to be the case. Even if he wins against Luis Ortiz, it's still not going to be financially worth Anthony Joshua's time and effort to come over here to America to fight him. So it's not a 50-50 fight. Anthony Joshua is clear-cut the money guy in the heavyweight division. It's not Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder's not even maybe the number 2 money guy in the heavyweight division. It may be Tyson Fury, who's now been reinstated. So this win will help him. It'll help out his case. But, no. Not a good look here for that. So they're going to try this again here for March the 3rd and possibly have Keith Thurman, who's coming off an arm injury, and Keith Thurman, who hasn't fought in a year as well. You know, the last time he fought was when he fought Danny Garcia. So are we sensing a pattern here? We're sensing a pattern here of guys not fighting, guys not staying active. Now, Keith Thurman's case, I do get it. He had an elbow injury. We thought he was going to try to come back before the year is out. He hasn't. He seems like he's ducking Alisses Jr. Whatever, man. So right now he's holding the WBA and the WBC titles captive while he's injured. So we'll see if he fights Jesse Vargas here next year, a part of the Luis Ortiz, Deontay Wilder card. But not to be outdone with more wacky stuff in the WBC, Mikey Garcia is moving up in weight again and is going to be fighting Sergey Lipinets for Sergey Lipinets' 140-pound title that he had won after it was vacated by Terrence Crawford. Quite honestly, there's a ton of boxers right now who should be either sending Terrence Crawford a Christmas ham, a gift card to iTunes. They should be sending him something because he's made a lot of fighters at the 140-pound division relevant, and he's given them opportunities to be champions that were not afforded to them when he was an active fighter there in the weight class. Let's just call it what it is. It's not being disrespectful to any of them. It's just being honest. If Terrence Crawford was still there, none of this would be – we wouldn't be talking about some of these fights that are being made. And some of these guys will not be champions. Sergey Lipinets is going to be defending his title against Mikey Garcia, who's moving up to junior welterweight. And he's fighting they're going to fight here February the 10th on Showtime down in San Antonio. Quite honestly, I think that the environment in itself where the card is going to be at, I think is going to be lit. Texas is a great fighting state. San Antonio and the Alamo Dome is a hell of a venue for boxing. I think they're going to do good. They should, in theory, do good numbers. Now, granted, Mikey Garcia is a California guy, but he's a Mexican heritage. Mexican fans do come out to the fights, so we'll see. They've had good numbers in fights there before in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome. But we shall see. So for Mikey Garcia, he had a lot of options on the table. Obviously, he had Omar Figueroa. Omar said he signed when we had him on the show, but Mikey hadn't. Jorge Linares was the guy he was looking to fight at 135 pounds, but he couldn't come up to a contractual agreement with Golden Boy to fight him. Robert Easter Jr. was another guy that holds the title at 135 that was being talked about as being a potential opponent for him. There was even talks of him moving up even higher and fighting Miguel Cotto in Miguel Cotto's last fight. But Mikey Garcia ultimately turned that deal down because of Golden Boy wanting extra options after the Cotto fight with him. So instead, he's now going to be fighting Sergey Lipinets, who just won the title here earlier this year. He won that here over the summer with a vacated belt. It's going to be his first defense. We'll see. For Mikey Garcia, he's going to be looking to gain his fourth belt in a weight class. There's only been 3 other guys here, really in the modern era who's ever done that. And they're going to be Hall of Famers. One will be a Hall of Famers from the other because one's still active. Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez. Crazy to think those are the only other guys who've done that and how they fought those wars that they did. But right now, 126, 130, 135, and now Mikey's going to be challenging for 140. Like I said, Pacquiao and Marquez are the only guys to do that. It's crazy to think that. Now, keep in mind, Mikey Garcia could have probably done this even sooner if he didn't have the legal issues he had with Top Rank. Set out, he set out over 2 years dealing with Top Rank. He's technically still a free agent, pretty much just freelancing fights, but he's joined with Al Heyman and Ringstar and PBC. So, he's working with Richard Schaefer, Heyman, and Showtime to get these fights done. So make no mistake about it. They have options on him. He's not going anywhere. you're going to see Mikey continue to fight over there for those guys. But, yeah, he's moving up in weight to his 4th weight class to challenge for a belt. I really want Mikey to pick a weight class and stick, but on the same token, I respect him for wanting to challenge himself physically and wanting to move up in weight and fight these guys and see if he can get more titles. So, I mean, more power to him. Mikey's still relatively young for boxing. He's 30. And like I said, taking the time off and not fighting for those 2 years, you know, it is what it is. But he's been busy since he's came back. 3 fights here, you know, last year, a knockout this year, winning the lightweight title against Dejin Zatelnik, one of the knockouts of the year. He had honestly, it was a lackluster fight against Adrian Broner here this past July, but it is what it is. But Lipinets is going to be his next opponent here February 10th down in the Alamo Dome. So, yeah, PBC does some weird matchmaking. I understand why they do it. Doesn't mean I agree with it. Doesn't mean I have to like it. I don't like it. I don't really find much in it for some of these fights that are being made, some of these fights being talked about. It is boxing to an extent we will watch because that's what we do as boxing fans. But what we have to do is we have to let these guys know that these fights don't make any sense by either not watching it, not buying tickets, as media, not covering it. I mean, and maybe they'll get the hint and make tougher and better fights. So I understand what PBC is doing. They're making the best of what they have, but sometimes these fights just make zero sense. So I got a couple quick closing thoughts here before we end the show. Kind of a line that makes no sense. There's been reports here today that Floyd Mayweather and the UFC are talking about a possible MMA move. Let me make something crystal clear here on the show, and I don't want to say I'm smarter than people think, but I'm smarter than what people think. Let me pretty much break this down to you what this will be. Floyd Mayweather is not fighting MMA. If you think he is, you're dumb. He's not. I don't care how much money is, at hand, he's not. The only window of opportunity I can see Floyd Mayweather fighting MMA, and I mean this is a crazy window. I hate to put this out there, but I can honest to God see it happening. If Floyd Mayweather fights MMA, it's going to be against somebody who has zero experience or someone who's really bad at it. That would be CM Punk. So if there's anyone in the UFC roster who would fight Floyd Mayweather, who they would put Floyd Mayweather against, it would be CM Punk. Now, he had his MMA debut here. I don't even forgot when he made his debut, truth be told. Jesus, I'm having to Google this because I literally cannot remember when he made this. Now, for those who know who CM Punk is, his government name is Phil Brooks, former WWE wrestler who fought a MMA fight against Mickey Gall back at UFC 203 back in September 2016. He has been wanting another MMA fight, but that has yet to ever happen. He lost that fight via submission, very lackluster effort. It was a welterweight fight, so it was at, 140, 154, or I forget whatever the weight class is, 150. Oh, man. I don't know what their weight classes are in the UFC, what the weight is, but it's a welterweight. So I want someone to keep in mind, that's around the same weight that Floyd Mayweather fights. So Floyd fights at 154. He can fight at 154. So that's the only angle I see that's even remotely close to happening, is Floyd Mayweather fighting CM Punk. The other aspect of this is we know Zuffa and Dana White want to get into boxing. So what better way to get into boxing? Hook up with Floyd Mayweather. And if you think Al Heyman is behind this, you're crazy. Now, we do know the UFC's TV deal with Fox is running out. We do know they're going to need to get something sparked because that's they need to generate money. They need to generate a bidding war for their product because Fox Sports 1 can lowball them. ESPN has been laying people off left and right. It may not make sense for them to sink money, hundreds of millions of dollars into the UFC's product when the product is, at times has shown shaky ratings here recently. So what sense would it make for ESPN to say, hey, we'll give you X millions of dollars? they may wait to see what Fox Sports 1 offer is, or vice versa. Fox Sports 1 may say, hey, go out on the open market, see what you can get. That's what UFC's doing. They're trying to negotiate or figure out some way to make the product seem better than what it is. So from that aspect, I get why you're throwing Floyd Mayweather's name out. But on the same aspect, I think a lot of people are kind of sick of Floyd Mayweather. They're ready to move on. Boxing's ready to move on. Let me rephrase it. Boxing has moved on. We got what we wanted when he fought Manny Pacquiao, which I'll openly admit on the show. I've still yet to watch that fight because I'm over it. The fight happened 5 years later than what it needed to happen. Never watched it. I never watched him facing Conor McGregor. Didn't watch that either. There was no point. I didn't know the fight would end. Nor have I watched his fight against Andre Berto. So boxing has moved on. We have young stars in the welterweight division. We have Errol Spence Jr. We have Terrence Crawfords. We have Anthony Joshua's. We have Deontay Wilders. We have Sergey Kovalev's. We have Gennady Golovkin's. We have Canelo Alvarez. We have Mikey Garcia, who's daring to be great, which, by the way, Richard Schaefer said Mikey Garcia be the biggest name in boxing sooner than later. Love Mikey, but that's not happening. You've got tons of guys who we've now clamored to and we've locked eyes on that we love in boxing to where Floyd Mayweather isn't that big of a deal. Now, granted, Floyd Mayweather has his rabid fans, who are going to be loyal, but it makes no sense. Just move on. So the UFC wants to get in boxing. Why not hook up with Floyd Mayweather? Why not have that link into the boxing world? Why not see if they can combine their powers? And if you think Al Heyman is somewhere behind this and seeing what money he can get out of this, you're crazy. You're crazy not to think Al Heyman is somewhere constructing this. Because Heyman, I don't want to say that Floyd's Heyman's puppet. I'm not going to go that extreme, but they've made a lot of money together. And if Heyman says something to Floyd, Floyd's going to listen because he's going to go chase after the money. So that is my thought. You're not going to see Floyd Mayweather fight MMA. I just don't see it. The only way I see it is if he's fighting CM Punk. But this is more on the lines of the UFC trying to bolster their product, and this could be their link into boxing, working with Floyd Mayweather and Al Heyman, because the PBC product as well, you never know how much longer they're going to be around. They're going to need new money. They're going to need other avenues and ventures to get their fighters out. Why not hook up with Zuffa Boxing and do something there? We're not crazy here, people. We see through these things. Another thing I want to touch on, and I'm going to not get too much in detail on it, because everyone in social media is seeing it, especially follow my Twitter and what have you. But I got to say this, that as a man, certain things you can't say and do, and it's definitely certain things you can't say and do on social media. And when you say these things, you got to be prepared for the repercussions behind them. And you also have to be a bigger man and sometimes maybe apologize when you don't even feel that you should, or you don't feel that it's needed when it really is needed. Gervonta Davis made some very cruel and explicit comments on social media about a female boxing analyst. The tweet is still up now that I'm aware of. The tweet is still yet to be taken down to this juncture. And this was on Friday. It hasn't been taken down. It's a shame that, one, he thinks it's okay, two, he thinks it's funny, and three, his PR, his promoter, which is Floyd Mayweather and Mayweather Promotions, hasn't gotten in his ear and told him take it down, do something. He hasn't done that yet. So it's a shame that happens. Another thing this week that has made him look bad is Vladimir Lomachenko, a.k.a. Lomo the God, as I like to call him, has pretty much said that, hey, Floyd Mayweather, quit hiding your fighter. He wants to fight Gervonta Davis. And I tweeted out, and it's gotten a lot of responses from people that, well, I'll read the exact tweet, that, it's funny that Gervonta Davis, the actual tweet was this. So Tank Davis can talk slick about a female boxing analyst, but quiet as the church mouse when it comes to when Lomo's around. Lomo tweeted out the tweet, and that I've read, there's still been no direct response from Gervonta Davis in regards to that. So it's mighty funny that he's picking his battles. He'd rather pick and battle with a woman on social media, but not a fellow boxer and a grown man. It's kind of a shit move and kind of a puss move, as far as I see it, in regards to that. This is where you have to be careful with social media, especially in today's day and age. You can't say disparaging comments about women for the masses and millions to see and think there won't be any sort of repercussions behind it. So, whatever becomes of it, of his comments, it's not a good look. It's very poor taste. He is not a welcome guest here on Punch in the Face Radio at any juncture. I don't really care what happens to him in his career after that, because stuff like this shows his true character. He's had other run-ins with things and people this year and even in years prior, so none of this should come as a surprise. But it's a shame that there aren't people in his ear telling him to take it down, or just, telling him to make an apology of some sort. It's a shame that this is the culture we live in, that this is being accepted by the powers that be, that he works around and he's around. So, just want to get on my soapbox about that for a moment and just leave it at that. But as far as I'm concerned, he gets no love on this show because he showed his true colors as a man, and I can't respect that. I can't do it. So it is what it is. But I will say this. There will not be a show next week, mainly because there's nothing going on in the world of boxing that's worth reporting. So we're going to take a week off here for the holiday and just enjoy the holiday. That's what we do. But if I'm looking at the calendar correctly, which I'm probably not because I'm horrible with times and dates, Adam Abramowitz will be back here on January the 3rd, I think. That's the plan. So Adam is back here on January the 3rd. Let me explain to you what's going to happen on the next Punch in the Face Radio here on January the 3rd. We don't know what the show is going to be called, but we're going to do an award show. And it's not like any other award shows that you hear on the podcast. We don't want to do the same, the fighter of the year, the round of the year. No. This is Punch in the Face Radio. We do everything a little bit different here. That was the whole idea when I relaunched the show, was just to be my show, show my character, and show who I am personality-wise. And Adam Abramowitz fits that perfectly because he's the yin to my yang. We work great, battling against each other. And our ideas really click up at times. And they're going to really click up here with this award show. I can tell you this. We will name, obviously, a Fighter of the Year. We're going to have the Quality Hate of the Year. We're going to find somebody, a boxing personality or somebody on Twitter who we thought has given the most hate in 2017, and we're going to anoint them that award. We've seen a couple of tweets from people who have nominees in regards to that, so we're going to do that. We're going to have maybe the most intriguing award I think we're going to name, not even an award, but I think the most intriguing discussion we're going to have is who's more likely to come back out of retirement in 2018. I think me and Adam have polar opposite views on this, but I think it's going to make for a real great discussion. Obviously, we're going to name International Fighters of the Year. We got a lot of great stuff that we're working on for the January 3rd show. So just stay tuned. In the meantime, with us being away here next week for the holiday, I encourage you, if you missed any episode, go to iTunes, search Punch to the Face Radio. As well, you can go to Stitcher Radio. Do the same thing. Search Punch to the Face Radio. It's always the number 2 in Punch to the Face Radio. And as well, you can go, if you want to just listen to the show through YouTube, you can do that as well. YouTube, search Punch to the Face Radio. We're there. So, yeah, that's all we have. So, in the meantime, I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed. Have a happy holiday season for those who celebrate Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. To my people who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. There are a few out there who celebrate Kwanzaa. Happy Kwanzaa. That's what we got here for this week. It's been fun. I'll talk to everyone after the new year, and I want everyone to stay out of trouble, please. But if you do get in trouble, trust me, we'll make fun of you come next year. So with that being stated, 2017 has been fun. I'll be back January the 3rd, New Punch to the Face Radio with our award show. Till then, everyone stay safe, stay blessed, and I'm out.
Yep, the holidays are here, but don't stress out. Visit Beauty Brands instead. Beauty Brands is your one-stop gifting destination, offering amazing gifts for everyone on your double-checked list.
Ho, ho, ho.
From hair care and styling tools to makeup and skincare, you're sure to find it all, including fabulous gift sets from hot brands like Redken, Living Proof, Tarte, and more, starting at just $9.99. So hop on your reindeer, your sleigh, or even your car, and visit beautybrands.com to shop online or find a location near you.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's you, Jamie. Don't be alarmed, but I think there's a guy following you. Maybe we should get that guard dog we talked about? Nothing too scary. Maybe like a Bichon with an attitude? You know, Progressive's collision insurance covers injured dogs and cats at no extra cost, so... Wait, the guy stood up when I stood up. He's on the phone. He's looking right at me. Oh, wait, it's just my reflection. Don't tell anyone about this.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet coverage not available in New Hampshire and North Carolina.